Hello guys, welcome to the Coin Riches channel. Imagine holding a small, silver-colored disc in the palm of your hand, a piece of metal that weighs no more than a few grams and measures just 21 millimeters across. To most people, it looks like nothing more than pocket change rescued from the back of an old sofa or found at the bottom of a dusty jar in a Belgian attic. But for the true seeker, the seasoned collector, and the person who understands that history is often written in the smallest of details, this coin is a portal. We are talking about the 1975 Belgian 1 franc, a year that marked a turning point in European history and a coin that represents the soul of a nation caught between tradition and the fast-approaching modern era. For those of us who have lived through the decades, who remember the world before it was digitized and flattened by the internet, there is a tactile weight to objects like this. If you were born between the mid-40s and the early 70s, you remember when money felt real. It wasn't just a number on a screen, it was something that clinked, something that had a scent of copper and nickel, something that carried the literal thumbprints of the people who built the world we live in today. The 1975 Belgian franc is a masterpiece of minimalist industrial design, featuring the bold, profile view of a stylized miner, a tribute to the backbone of the Belgian economy, the coal industry. Look closely at the face of this coin. You see the sharp, angular lines of the helmet and the stoic, forward-looking gaze of the worker. This wasn't just an artistic choice, it was a political statement. Belgium in 1975 was a country grappling with its identity. The post-war boom was settling into a period of reflection. The coal mines that had fueled the Industrial Revolution and rebuilt Europe after the devastation of World War II were beginning to see their twilight. When you hold this coin, you are holding the final echoes of an era of manual labor, of sweat, and of the collective strength of the working class. It captures a moment right before the world shifted toward the service economy and the silicon chip. For a collector in the prime of their life, the appeal of the 1975 issue lies in its deceptive commonality. Millions were minted, yet how many survived the transition to the euro in 2002? How many were melted down, lost in the transition of a continent changing its entire financial DNA? Very few pieces remain in what we call gem mint condition. To find one that has never seen the inside of a pocket, one that still carries the original luster from the Brussels mint, is like finding a needle in a haystack of history. It is the hunt that keeps us young. It is the pursuit of that one perfect specimen that bridges the gap between our childhood memories and our current legacy. The 1975 Belgian franc is also a linguistic map of a divided yet unified nation. Depending on which version you hold, the text reads either Belgique or Belgique. This duality is the very essence of the Belgian spirit, the Flemish and the Walloon cultures existing on two sides of the same coin. In 1975, these tensions and collaborations were at the forefront of the national conversation. Owning both versions of the 1975 coin is not just a numismatic goal, it is an acknowledgement of the complexity of human governance and the beauty of cultural coexistence. Think back to where you were in 1975. Perhaps you were just starting your career, or perhaps you were watching the world change through the lens of a young adult. The Cold War was in a state of détente, the oil crisis had just shaken the global economy, and the music of Queen and Pink Floyd filled the airwaves. This coin was there. It paid for a coffee in a rainy Brussels cafe, it was traded for a newspaper reporting on the end of the Vietnam War, it was saved in a child's piggy bank as a lesson in thrift and value. It has a provenance of the soul that modern currency simply cannot replicate. There is an inherent authority in a coin that has survived 50 years. It has outlasted governments, outlived many of the people who first spent it, and remained unchanged while the borders of Europe were redrawn and the very concept of money was reinvented. When we talk about value, we often talk about price, but true value is found in the narrative. The 1975 franc is a storyteller. It tells of the Belgian Royal Mint's commitment to precision. It tells of a time when the franc was a symbol of stability in Western Europe. It tells of the artisans who engraved the dies with such care that even 50 years later, the texture of the miner's helmet feels crisp under a magnifying glass. For the serious investor, the 1975 date holds a specific allure. In the world of numismatics, we look for transitional years where the minting process might have seen subtle shifts in alloy composition or where a specific batch might have been struck with a slightly different pressure. While the standard 1975 franc is a beautiful piece of history, there are ghost coins, errors and trial strikes that exist in the shadows of the official records. These are the grails. These are the items that move from being mere currency to becoming high-stakes artifacts that we must also consider the aesthetic shift of the mid-70s. This coin moved away from the ornate, flowery designs of the early 20th century. It embraced the modernist movement. It is sleek, it is functional, and it is undeniably European. It reflects a continent that was trying to look forward, trying to shed the heavy weight of its 19th century colonial past and find a new, cleaner way of presenting itself to the world. The 1975 franc doesn't hide behind excessive decoration, it stands bare, bold, and certain. As we delve deeper into the technical specifications, we see a composition of copper-nickel that was designed to be durable. It was meant to last for decades of circulation. However, the irony of numismatics is that the very durability of the coin makes the pristine examples even more valuable. Because they were meant to be used, they were used. They were scratched, dented, and worn smooth by the hands of millions. To find one that escaped this fate, a coin that was tucked away in a velvet-lined case or forgotten in a mint-sealed bag, is to witness a miracle of preservation. It is a time capsule that has remained airtight while the rest of the world aged. I have seen many collectors look at a 1975 Belgian franc and dismiss it at first glance. But then, they pick it up. They feel the ridges on the edge. They see how the light catches the relief of the miner's face. Suddenly, they aren't looking at a coin, they are looking at a piece of their own timeline. They are remembering the smell of their father's leather wallet or the sound of coins jingling in their mother's purse during a trip to the market. This is the power of the 1975 franc. It is a sensory trigger that bypasses the logical mind and goes straight to the heart, but beyond the nostalgia, there is a cold, hard reality to the market. The world of rare coins is currently experiencing a renaissance. As traditional markets fluctuate, people are returning to hard assets, items that have intrinsic historical value and a finite supply. The 1975 Belgian franc is perfectly positioned for this. It is accessible enough to be known, yet rare enough in high grades to command respect. It represents a sweet spot for the collector who wants a piece of history that also functions as a store of wealth. To understand the true potential of the 1975 Belgian franc, we have to look past the surface and into the mechanics of how rarity is actually created. In the mid-70s, the Brussels Mint was a hive of activity, pumping out tens of millions of coins to keep the economy moving. But when you are dealing with that kind of volume, the margin for error increases. This is where the story shifts from a common pocket coin to a legendary treasure. For the collector who knows what to look for, 1975 isn't just another year on the calendar, it is a year of anomalies. One of the most fascinating aspects of this specific era is the transitional era. During this time, the mint was experimenting with different planchet compositions and striking pressures. Imagine a scenario where a blank intended for a different denomination or even a foreign contract was accidentally fed into the press for the 1 franc coin. These wrong planchet errors are the holy grails of European numismatics. They look almost identical to the naked eye, but the moment you put them on a high-precision scale, the truth is revealed. A difference of just a fraction of a gram can be the difference between a coin worth its face value and a coin that can change your life. Then there is the matter of the die cracks and the double strikes. As the machines worked through the night in 1975, the hardened steel dies began to fail. Subtle fissures would form, leaving tiny, raised lines of metal on the finished coins. Most of these were caught by quality control, but a few slipped through. For a younger person, these might look like damage. But for you, the seasoned collector, these are the fingerprints of the machine. They are proof of a unique moment in time that can never be replicated. Finding a 1975 1 franc with a significant die clash or an off-center strike is like finding a misprinted stamp or a rare first edition book with a unique typo. It is the imperfection that creates the perfection. The emotional weight of this coin also comes from its role as a survivor of the Great Euro Melt. When the euro was introduced, citizens across Belgium were encouraged to turn in their old francs. Huge industrial furnaces were lit, and millions of these coins, pieces of history, family memories, and national identity, were liquefied into generic slabs of metal. The coins that survived were the ones hidden in the back of drawers, the ones kept by grandfathers who didn't trust the new currency, and the ones saved by collectors who knew that one day, the world would want them back. By surviving that purge, every 1975 franc today carries a defiance within it. As we move into the technical heart of the collection, let's talk about the billing factor. In 1975, the mint produced two distinct versions, one with the Dutch text, België, and one with the French text, Belgique. While the mintages for both were high, the survival rate for high-grade specimens varies significantly between the two. A true master of the craft doesn't just look for one 1975 coin, they look for the matched pair in identical grades. This dual set collecting is a hallmark of the sophisticated numismatist. It shows an appreciation for the cultural fabric of Belgium and a dedication to the complete story of the year. We must also discuss the luster of 1975. There is a specific type of cartwheel luster found on the uncirculated Belgian coins of this decade. It has a silky, almost pearlescent quality that differs from the harsh, shiny finish of modern proof coins. When you tilt a pristine 1975 franc under a single light source, the light should dance around the rim like the spokes of a wheel. This luster is incredibly fragile. The oils from a human thumb, the humidity in a basement, or even the friction of sliding across a wooden table can destroy it forever. This is why a condition census coin, one of the top-graded examples in the world, is so exponentially more valuable than a standard mint state coin. For those watching who are in their 50s and 60s, you understand the value of legacy. You aren't just buying a coin, you are securing a piece of history that will only become more significant as the 20th century recedes into the distant past. The 1975 Belgian 1 franc is a tangible link to the world of our youth. It is a reminder of a time when Europe was a collection of distinct voices and vibrant currencies. As we look toward the future, these physical artifacts become the anchors of our heritage. Now, we come to the part of the story that most people find hard to believe. In the world of elite auctions, where the most secretive and wealthy collectors compete, the 1975 Belgian franc has reached heights that would shock the average person. We aren't talking about the coin you find in a junk bin at a flea market. We are talking about the specimen strikes, the documented errors, and the coins with a pedigree that can be traced back to the mint masters themselves. There is one legendary example, a coin so rare and in such a miraculous state of preservation, that it defies all standard valuation models. This brings us to the ultimate question: what is the limit of a coin's value? When history, rarity, and perfection converge, the price becomes secondary to the importance of the object itself. For the most exceptional, one-of-a-kind 1975 Belgian 1 franc ever documented, a coin that represents the absolute pinnacle of this year's production and carries an error that has baffled experts for decades, the market has set a staggering benchmark. The value of this ultimate 1975 Belgian 1 franc coin is $88,000.